All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little San Francisco Giants off-season video. And Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. And also this video brought to you by Mojo Fantasy. Check that link in the description. Make sure you use the promo code Krug, Krueg, and get up to $100 matched on your first deposit and automatically enter into a drawing to win Bosa or a Purdy jersey on Thanksgiving night. Let's talk a little Giants baseball. We haven't talked a lot of Giants baseball. One of my favorite articles every year is there's really two articles I look for at the beginning of the offseason. It's Jim Bowden's projections on the free agent market, and then it's the MLB trade rumor projections on that same free agent market. MLB Trade Rumors puts together an extensive list. This is their 18th annual top 50 free agent list. And Tim Durkis, Anthony Franco, and Steve Adams are the three guys who do it. And what they do is, I mean, it's a deep dive on the top, the top 50 free agents that are available. And what they do is they go down the list and they look at every free agent and then they go what they think are the top 50 and then they give you their contract, what they think the kind of contract they're going to get. So, give you an example, Shohei Ohtani, they think is going to get a 12-year deal for $528 million. And that is interesting because they think, they basically think that the Dodgers are going to go after Shohei Ohtani, which, $528 million for the Dodgers. So they're saying $44 million a year for 12 years for Shohei Ohtani. And sadly, all three of the experts, Durkis, Franco, and Adams, all say Dodgers. So, Giants fans, get ready for the premier free agent in the market, Shohei Ohtani, to wind up with the Dodgers. They're not always right, but they're right a lot. And if for all three guys to say Dodgers, Dodgers, and Dodgers, it sounds like Shohei could be headed to the Dodgers. But let's go. They have six guys in their top 50. They had six guys tied to the Giants. So why don't we do this? We'll go through the six guys they have tied to the Giants. And there were some on here that, I think are kind of interesting that they didn't even mention tied to the Giants. Like, for example, Tommy Pham, I think, and Hunter Renfroe, a couple outfielders. I think the Giants will be looking for more power, more speed in their outfield. I could see them going after a Tommy Pham. I could see them going after a Renfroe. I could see them going after Michael A. Taylor. He's not on their list. At shortstop, if they're going to, I could see the Giants buying low on a Tim Anderson, 1 year, $12 million. They actually say Anderson's going to get a 1-year deal for $12 million. And they list the A's, the Mariners, and the Marlins as the three teams that will be in on Tim Anderson. That's interesting. They had Jacob Junis, the former Giant, signing a 2-year, $15 million deal either with the Padres or the Diamondbacks. They had Brandon Belt playing another year, signing a 1-year, $15 million deal with either Boston, Pittsburgh, or Milwaukee. Thought that was kind of interesting. One name that I do think they didn't link to the Giants that I definitely think could be linked to the Giants this offseason is Frankie Montas, who has, I believe, pitched for Bob Melvin at some point. 1 year, $15 million for the power righty. They say Baltimore, the Cardinals, and the Nationals will be in on Frankie Montas. So, but let's just go through the guys that they actually have linked to the Giants, and it's an interesting group of guys. Okay, let's start with we'll work from the back to the front to make it a little bit more exciting. At number 43 on their list, they have a right-handed or a left-handed relief pitcher who pitched for the Tohoku Rakuten Golden Eagles in Japan, and his name is Yuki Matsui. He's a 28-year-old left-handed reliever. They're saying the Cubs, the Giants, and the Cardinals will all have interest in Yuki Matsui. And they say he's going to land a contract of 2 years and $16 million. He's a left-handed reliever. He had 39 saves last year in Japan. He's had 30-plus saves 6 times in his career. What's interesting about this guy is the size. He's 5'8" and 167 pounds. This would probably be one of the smallest pitchers we've seen in the big leagues in a long time. 5'8", 167. I mean, that's a tiny pitcher. He's a tiny left-handed reliever who had 39 saves, and he's only 28, so it's not like he's an old guy. He does not require posting fee or anything like that because of his status in Japan. So it's not a guy that you have to pay a posting fee for. It doesn't sound like there's going to be a massive bidding war for him, but 2 years, 16 million, and the Giants are one of the teams. So Yuki Matsui, I may have to YouTube him and check him out. Now that would be a tiny left-handed reliever. In fact, I'm so curious about what he looks like. I'm going to go watch him after this is over. Another name on the list, checking in at 36, and this is a guy who's one of my favorite players. I really love watching this player play. He's kind of like an Eric Burns type, but they say Harrison Bader, that the Giants and the Twins are the two teams that could be after Harrison Bader. They're estimating Bader's going to get a 2-year deal for $10 million per, so 2 years, $20 million. Harrison Bader's got plus speed. He's got outstanding defense in center field. It's funny. He had 5 home runs in 9 playoff games in 2022, and then followed it up this last year playing for the Yankees and then the Reds, and hit like 232, and had a bunch of soft tissue injuries. He had an oblique, he had a hammy, he had a groin. He's 29. He's kind of interesting from the standpoint of probably a little bit better against lefties than righties. He's a right-handed hitting center fielder. He hit 258 against lefties, 248 against righties. But I just like the way Bader plays. He was a fan favorite in St. Louis. He's a New York kid who came up and played with the Cardinals. He was a fan. A lot of Cardinals fans loved him. Then he went to New York, and they fell in love with him for a short amount of time. As I said, he had a hot stretch in the 2022 playoffs where he had 5 home runs in 9 playoff games. I just like the way he plays. He goes full bore. He's fast. He's athletic. If you felt like his legs are in shape, I don't know if you need to go 2 years. You might be able to get him just for a 1-year deal and let him test the market in a year. Maybe 1 year and a club option for the second year. But Harrison Bader, I like Harrison Bader. I really do, and I think that's an interesting name. And I would definitely be interested in Harrison Bader this offseason. I'm glad the Giants are listed there. Sean Manaea's on this list, and Manaea supposedly wants to leave the Giants, but they say Manaea's going to get a 2-year, $22 million deal that Pittsburgh, the Dodgers, and the Tampa Bay Rays will all have interest in Manaea. Another guy that I really think would be an interesting Giant would be Aroldis Chapman. Could you imagine Chapman from the left side setting up Doval in the 9th? They say Houston, the Chi Sox, and the Angels are going after Chapman, 2 years, $24 million. So he's not listed as a guy. Rhys Hoskins is another guy. He's a Sacramento kid, NorCal guy. The Giants are not listed under Rhys Hoskins. 2 years, $36 million. He's trying to come back from the ACL. Minnesota, the Angels, and the Phillies, according to these guys, are going to be interested in Rhys Hoskins. But I like Hoskins. Jordan Hicks, a hard-throwing Cardinal reliever. They're saying he's going to get 4 years and $10 million per, so $40 million, and that the O's, Yankees, and Tigers would have interest. I think that would be a guy that I'd have a lot of interest in just because of how hard he throws and how overpowering his stuff can be. But so far, those are the guys that the only guys so far on this list connected to the Giants: Yuki Matsui and Harrison Bader. Okay, those 2 guys. So now let's move to, there are 1, 2, 3, there's 4 more guys connected to the Giants. One of them, I thought Sonny Gray would be connected to the Giants. They say Sonny Gray is going to get a 4-year deal for $90 million. Braves, Dodgers, Tigers. I could definitely see Sonny Gray here just because of his connection to Farhan and Melvin and the A's. I could see that. That makes sense to me. One guy they have on the list here is Matt Chapman. And I've already heard rumblings that the Giants could be in on Chapman, who's a one of the best defensive third basemen I've ever seen. I mean, he's like a modern day Brooks Robinson or Mike Schmidt or Matt Williams. I mean, now Casey Schmidt is a phenomenal defensive third baseman in his own right. And if you get Chapman, or what are you going to do with Casey Schmidt? You going to trade him? You going to trade Casey Schmidt? I mean, you sure as hell better get something good if you trade Casey Schmidt. Or you're going to play Casey Schmidt maybe at shortstop. I thought he was serviceable at shortstop. I mean, I don't definitely, he is not an everyday shortstop, but he doesn't embarrass himself. He's got great hands. But that's an interesting one. Do the Giants, they say Matt Chapman's going to sign a 6-year deal for $150 million. And they have the Giants, the Phillies, and the Cubs all interested in Matt Chapman. I mean, I've heard worse. I mean, the guy is a Gold Glove defensive third baseman. I mean, if it would definitely establish a surplus and allow you to trade Casey Schmidt if you had another deal in mind. There's no question that Casey Schmidt would be attractive to other teams in a trade. And having Chapman would make it more palatable to move Casey Schmidt. But man, you also, I don't know how many years you want to go on Chapman. 6 years might be a little bit long. That might be, you may get a bad year or two at the back end of that deal. But he's definitely intriguing, and I would love to see him in a Giant uniform playing the hot corner as far as defense. I mean, he is a thing of beauty playing that hot corner. He's as good a third baseman as I've ever seen, as I said. Also on this list, connected to the Giants, Jordan Montgomery. Jordan Montgomery had a really good ALCS, and they're saying 6 years, $150 million is going to be his price tag. They say the Giants, the Mets, and the Rangers all have interest in Jordan Montgomery. So that's a really interesting name, Jordan Montgomery. Montgomery is a good player. I mean, there's no question. I mean, he's a really intriguing pitcher. I mean, the guy was a very good pitcher in both leagues. He's got well above average stuff. I mean, this guy was a 4th-round draft pick by the Yankees. I reached the majors in 2017, and then he had Tommy John surgery. He's a South Carolina product, and he was dealt in a deadline deal this summer. St. Louis dropped out of contention, and they moved him to the Rangers, and he was really good. I mean, he pitched well in Arlington. He had a 2.79 ERA in 11 appearances, and then he had 31 innings in the run of the Rangers to the World Series, where he had a 2.90 ERA. He had a scoreless 7-inning outing over the Rays in the wild card series. He pitched really well in the ALCS against the Astros. He was really clutch in Game 7 out of the bullpen. He had one World Series start. He allowed 4 runs in 6 innings. So over the past 3 seasons, though, you're talking about 94 starts, 3.48 ERA. The guy throws strikes, and he's a good pitcher. He's got a sinker. He's got a 4-seamer. Throws about 92, 93. He's got a change and a curveball, kind of secondary pitches. He's had Tommy John surgery, but since then he's been pretty durable. So, I mean, I don't think he's an ace, but I think he's a solid number 2. So that's an interesting name to me, Jordan Montgomery. And they say 6 years at $150 million, and that the Giants are one of the 3 teams interested. All right, 2 more names left, and they're both really interesting. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, 9 years, $225 million. And supposedly, according to MLB trade rumors, Durkis, Franco, and Adams, it's down to the Giants and the Yankees. So can the Giants outbid the Yankees for Yamamoto? That's the question. And he's an interesting story. He's the top Japanese pitcher, aside obviously from Shohei, and he's one of the best Japanese pitchers to come over in a long time. He reached the highest level in Japan as an 18-year-old in 2017, and he's been an Oryx Buffalo rotation stalwart since 2019 when he was 20. So he's a really, really good pitcher. I mean, really good pitcher. 1.21 ERA in 164 innings this year. It's a half run lower than the league's second place finisher. He struck out 26.6% of opposing hitters. He had 169 total strikeouts, second in the league. And he had a very minuscule walk rate, 4.4%. He's got great command. He had an epic performance in Game 6 of the Japanese series recently, striking out 14, throwing 138 pitches. So he's clearly healthy, though that is heavy use for sure. So this guy's big time. He's considered to be a top tier pitcher. He's had a lot of long stretch of really good numbers, and evaluators think that he's a high end big league starting pitcher, maybe a number 2 in a strong rotation. He's not big. This is another guy. He's not big. He's 5'10", 175 pounds. But people feel like he's going to hold up physically, and a lot of strong reports. So he's entering his age 25 season. A lot of people compare him to Masahiro Tanaka, who was a Yankee in the 2013, 2014. So it's interesting. He's an interesting guy for sure. You're talking about a long-term commitment, and they're saying maybe 8 to 12 years. They're saying minimum of probably around 8 years. That seems like a long time. There's also, you also have to satisfy the Buffaloes here. He'll be made available via the posting system since he didn't reach the requisite 9 years of service time in pro ball over there. So the team that signs him is going to have to pay a fee to the Oryx Buffaloes, and then they'll own 20% of his contract's first $25 million. So he's not going to cost assigning a draft choice because the qualifying offer is not in place. So that's one of the things that makes him more attractive. And Yamamoto's got 45 days from his official posting date to sign. He'd otherwise remain in Japan. So, he's young enough that a lot of teams are comfortable going long term on him. You're talking about a big investment here. This is a big swing. You know, you're going to have a $200 million payroll to take on this player. And the Mets, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers, the Giants, the Tigers, the Cubs, and the Rangers, they say all will check in on him. But it could come down to the Giants and the Yankees. So I don't know, man. I would steer clear. I would steer clear. Not because this guy's not good. I'm sure he is good. But 9 years and $225 million? 9 years for a pitcher who's 5'10" and 176 pounds? I mean, do you really feel comfortable going 9 years on a guy who throws in the high 90s at 5'10", 176? I don't know. I don't know. That seems to me to be huge risk. Now, for the Yankees, they can do that. For the Giants, you sign this guy and he winds up hurt dramatically, and you don't get, and you're on the hook for 9 years, 225. I mean, you think Farhan is getting criticized now. To me, that seems like a huge risk. 9 years, $225 million for a pitcher who's never pitched a day in the big leagues and is 5'10", 176 pounds. I mean, I have watched him, and he's got a kind of a frisbee weirdo curveball, and he's definitely got a splitter, and he throws hard. But I would really be concerned about 5'10", 176. Now, if you want to go 5 years, okay, that's still a huge commitment, big money commitment, and still long term for a 5'10" pitcher who's not even 180 pounds. But 9 years, that would be too much. I mean that would be, if the Giants take that level of risk on Yoshinobu Yamamoto, all I got to say is God bless them. Good luck to them. They got tons of guts, because that is a ton of money and a long-term deal on a relatively tiny pitcher who, who knows how he's going to hold up physically. Are you telling me that a guy who's not even 180 pounds and is 5'10" is going to continue throwing high 90s for 9 years? I don't know. Call me skeptical. So, and then the number one name on the list, of course, the number one free agent is Shohei Ohtani. As I told you already, they say that he's going to the Dodgers. All three guys, Dirkus, Franco, and Adams, all say Dodgers. 12 years, 44 million a year, 528 total $1 million for Ohtani, which, it's going to make you sick as a Giants fan to see the number one free agent go there after they've you name it. Mookie Betts, he's there. Freddie Freeman, he's there. It just seems like the Dodgers always get the top guy. But the number one name on the list tied to the Giants in this thing by Dirkus, Franco, and Adams is Cody Bellinger. And they have Cody Bellinger signing a 12-year, $264 million deal. So you're talking about $22 million a year. And they have two of the three guys say he's going to the Giants. One guy says he's going to the Yankees, but isn't that interesting? He signed with the Cubs for 17.5 this last year on a make good, and then made good. Hit 307, 356 on base, 26 homers, 20 stolen bases. He's a plus defensive center fielder. He can play first. He's in his prime. He's only 28. The Cubs did give him a qualifying offer, so it will cost the Giants a draft choice. But the big question here is for Bellinger is simply the shoulder. How healthy is Cody Bellinger's shoulder? Um, you know, he hit 39 home runs as a 21-year-old in 2017, won the NL Rookie of the Year, and had an MVP showing in 2019. Hit 305, 406 on base, 47 bombs, beat out Christian Yelich for the MVP. And then the bottom fell out. He was fine during the 2020 regular season, but he had a strong postseason, helped the Dodgers to the World Series. But then, while celebrating a home run with Kiki Hernandez in Game 7 of the NLCS, he dislocates his right shoulder, and he played in the World Series, and then underwent shoulder surgery that November. The next 2 years post shoulder surgery were a nightmare. He hit 165 in 2021. Did have that big hit against the Giants that was on game one that was basically ended the Giants season. Had the key hit against the Giants in 2021. Was only marginally better in 2022. Hit 210 with a 265 on base in 144 games. Now, Scott Boras did an interview recently with Bob Nightingale of the USA Today, and he said he was hurt, plain and simple. He had surgery. The Dodgers asked him to play with 35% strength deficiency, and then with COVID, and didn't have the shoulder strength. Boras didn't make it sound like the Dodgers mishandled him, but Andrew Friedman told the LA Times that he found that to be a very convenient narrative. So he sounds kind of skeptical. There may have been some other things going on. The Dodgers declined to tender him an arbitration offer last winter, and the Giants were one of the teams that showed interest. The Rockies, the Giants, the Yankees, the Blue Jays, and then he signs for 1 year with the Cubs on a make-good deal for $17.5 million, and the classic pillow contract. And he had a resurgent year. 307, 356 on base, 525 slugging, 556 plate appearances, played the whole year. 26 homers, 20 steals, got his strikeout rate down to a career low, 15.6. He did have a left knee contusion where he missed a couple weeks. Other than that, he was totally healthy. Logged 686 innings in center field at Wrigley. Plus defender. Played 421 and 2/3 innings at first. And he was good. Homered in 4.7 of his plate appearances this year. They say his batted ball metrics are uninspiring. 31.4% hard contact rate is 9 percentage points below the league average, well down from the 45% range at which he was squaring balls up during his MVP season. So there are people that believe he's not quite all the way back. The shoulder, they say, appears healthier now than it has the last couple of years. He put more balls in play, reduced the pressure to hit for power. He's a quality defensive player, whether it be center field or first base. God knows the Giants need an athletic center fielder. Really good base runner. 28, doesn't turn 29 until July. So there's a huge drop off in free agent bats after Bellinger. So he's going to get broken off and paid handsomely. To me, I mean, the free agent market is always about risk for sure. And there's always a chance for a major risk. But to me, this is a guy that I would take a chance on. Absolutely, I would. Big power, big speed, really athletic. Um, had a great year in Chicago, proved he was healthy in his prime. I mean, um, it 12 years seems like a lot, though. I got to be honest. I mean, 12 years for Cody Bellinger after one good year and two bad years. I think I'd feel much more comfortable if they gave him 24, 25 million a year and had that down like 4 years less, you know, 8 years. How about 8 years? Or how about 25 million a year for 6 years? 12 years. I don't want to go 12 years. That's a long time. That is a long time for a player who just had two really bad years offensively before this one. So 12 years is a lot. 12 years is maybe bad business, to be totally honest. But 8 years, maybe 8 years at 25, I could go there. I could go, I could go 25 for 8. You're talking about $200 million, for 8 years. To me that's 12 years. I mean, that is an awful long time. 25 million times 8 is 200 million. How about $25 million a year for 8 years? That to me is a much more reasonable contract than 22 million for 12 years. I don't want to go 12 years. But if he'd be willing to take an 8-year deal for 25 million a year at $200 million, I think that would make a lot of sense to me. At least that would be a deal that I would be more comfortable in than you know than just going endless. 12 years is an awful long time. That really is. And you're talking about basically you got a 28-year-old player that you're going to be taking to his 40th birthday. Now, if he were absolutely very consistent every single year, I would consider it. But the fact of the matter is, he was really a shadow of his former self, shadow of the MVP player, um, 21 and 22. So I don't know. That 12 years seems too long. But how about 8 years, 25 million? How about 200 million for Cody Bellinger? Very interesting. If I'm the Giants, I got to think long and hard about that. All right. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Mojo Fantasy as well. Check that link in the description. Make sure you use the promo code Krug. Get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Win that Bosa or Purdy jersey on Thanksgiving night. And thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.